Welcome back, my friends. I'm Pastor Murphy with Help Along the Way. Today we arrive at the last session of our series, Watching Our Consumption. Over the past few conversations, we've explored how the quiet decisions of Daniel in the book of Daniel and the wise instructions of Paul the Apostle in 1 Timothy teaches us something deeply practical. Our daily consumption, what we eat, watch, buy, and absorb, shape who we become. But more than that, it shapes the way we love our neighbors. Because a life driven by constant appetite rarely leaves room for generosity, attention, or compassion. But a life guided by wisdom becomes a quiet blessing to others. Today, we'll try to bring the entire conversation together. Along the way, I want to ask three reflective questions that can help each of us examine our habits and move toward a healthier, more intentional life. Living in an age of unlimited consumption. Let's begin with an honest observation. We live in a time of unprecedented access. At any moment, we can order food with an app. We can stream endless entertainment. We can scroll through thousands of opinions before breakfast. Now, none of these things are inherently evil. Technology can be very helpful. Convenience can be wonderful. But the danger lies in something that's subtle without realizing it. Our lives can slowly become consumption driven. We consume information, we consume entertainment, we consume products, and before long, we feel strangely exhausted. Daniel faced a similar tension a long time ago in the city of Babylon. The king's table represented abundance, luxury, and privilege. But Daniel realized something important. Unlimited access does not always lead to a healthy life. Sometimes wisdom means saying no. Let me tell you about a man that he spoke at a conference, and he described his life as full but strangely empty. He had a good job, a comfortable home. He had every streaming service imaginable. But he noticed something troubling. His evenings were filled with screens. His weekends were filled with errands, and meaningful conversation with his family was becoming rare. One day, his young daughter said something that startled him. She asked, "Dad, why do you always look at your phone when I'm talking to you?" That question did something inside. He realized he had been consuming information while missing relationships. He made a small change. Phones went into a basket during dinner. No screens, just conversation. At first, the silence felt awkward, but slowly laughter returned to the dinner table. Stories of their day returned, and connection returned. One small change in consumption transformed the whole atmosphere in the home. So let me ask you gently, what is consuming more of your life than it should? Let that question sit for a minute. Not everything that fills our life is harmful, but some things quietly take more space than they deserve. For one person, it might be the endless news updates. For another, it might be online shopping. For another, it might be hours of entertainment. There's a friend that told someone he noticed the stress rising every evening after some reflection. He realized he was reading with negative headlines for nearly 2 hours each night. So we simply made that adjustment. News once a day. Then he closed the laptop. Instead of spending the rest of the evening, he started reading books and he started taking walks. And within the week, his anxiety dropped dramatically. Sometimes the path to peace begins with adjusting what we consume. Daniel's decision in Babylon reminds us that discipline is not about deprivation. It truly is about freedom. When we practice thoughtful limits, we discover something amazing and wonderful. Our minds become clearer, our schedules become calmer, our relationships become deeper. The Apostle Paul captured this idea just wonderfully when he told Timothy, his son, to train for godliness. Spiritual growth grows through intentional habits. So, what could you do to simplify your life so you can serve people better? You know, consumption often fills our schedule so tightly that generosity feels impossible. But simplicity, dialing back, creates margin. There was a pastor shared a story about a couple in his church. They realized their spending habits had slowly become, excessive. Multiple subscriptions, frequent eating out, constant, everyday online purchases. None of it seemed extreme on its own, but put all together, it did create financial pressure. So they decided to simplify. They canceled several subscriptions. They reduced unnecessary spending. And within a couple of months, they had extra resources available. Instead of upgrading their lifestyle, they began supporting a local family that was facing medical bills. Their decision to simplify became someone else's miracle. That's the beauty of disciplined living. It creates space for compassion. Daniel, he never intended to become a national leader. He simply chose faithfulness in those small matters. But those small matters prepared him for what? Greater responsibility. Character built in private eventually reveals itself in public. The same principle applies today. A person who practices self-control, he becomes a stabilizing presence in a chaotic environment. Families feel it, workplaces notice it, communities benefit from it. So let's ask the third reflective question. What quiet decision today could influence someone's tomorrow? We often imagine influence as something very dramatic, but most influence grows slowly over through consistent choices. One final story. There was a high school coach decided to begin every practice with a short moment of gratitude. Nothing elaborate, just, 30 seconds where the players mention something they appreciate that day. At first, as you can imagine, the team rolled their eyes. Teenagers can be wonderfully skeptical, but over time, something changed. The locker room atmosphere softened, encouragement replaced sarcasm, and the players started supporting one another in new and different ways, in the locker room and out. That coach never preached a sermon, but one small habit reshaped the entire culture of the team. And that's how many times influence works. Quiet decisions, repeated faithfully. Over time, they transform environments. As we conclude this series, remember, if you would, this simple truth. Consumption shapes character, and character shapes community. Daniel's restraint in Babylon prepared him to become a wise leader. Paul's instruction to Timothy reminds us that spiritual training produces strength for both this life and the life to come. Watching our consumption is not about legalism, it's about wisdom. It's about creating lives that are strong enough, calm enough, and generous enough to bless others. So today, my brothers and sisters, take a moment to reflect. What are you feeding your heart? What habits are shaping your mind? What rhythms are filling your days? The small adjustments can create remarkable change. Quieter evening, a simpler lifestyle, a more intentional schedule. These choices may seem really small, but like Daniel's decision in Babylon, they can ripple outward in ways we never fully see. In a world that constantly urges us to consume more, the quiet wisdom of discipline, of a disciplined life, becomes a truly powerful testimony. Until next time, may our habits strengthen our souls. May your life become a blessing to the neighbors that God has placed around you. Thank you for viewing today. This is Pastor Murphy with Help Along the Way. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.